Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. My name is Kalina. So, I spent a bunch of this weekend organizing and updating my Actors Access. I feel like I've always been someone who's been on this. That's not true. Like 6, 7 years ago, I actually remember my agent asking me to check something and me being so disappointed in myself when I realized how out of date this stuff was. But we're in a different universe now, and you actors probably know we work directly on our actors access. Like as a kid, I was also a kid, but I never looked at this stuff. This to me was agent stuff at the time. But now we've got our actors access on our phones. A lot of us self submit. My agent submits me to my auditions, but to get the auditions, but I still put the link to the audition inside Actors Access on my own. And I've talked to people, a lot of agents are doing that now as well. So, anyways, I've really enjoyed updating this, and I thought I'd share it with you guys, and you can let me know what you think, or if you think something should be done differently, you can share that with me, and I can let you know if I agree, and we can go from there. So this is my first screen on my Actors Access. This is my general profile. I think in general on Actors Access and on Casting Workbook and any other casting site you might use, casting networks or Backstage or whatever, the most important thing is you update it as much as you can. You put everything you have there. So this is my favorite headshot right now. I just took this one a month and a half ago. So I put that new headshot there. And here, in regards to my special skills, a lot of this I just recently added. I've started to take dialect classes, and I've put a lot of accents down that were not here before. In regards to sports, I know some people are like, put everything down, and other people are like, don't put anything down you don't know. I'd say this is pretty honest. I grew up in sports, and I played national level badminton, and I've been boating for years. I used to work at a boat marina. I did advanced contortion, gymnastics, and like hockey and figure skating. I did the like lower levels of competitive. So I know it looks like a lot, but I'd say this is pretty honest. I like sports a lot. So that's there. And okay, what I really want to talk to you guys about is my resume. So I just came back from spending a month in Vancouver, and I really wanted to update with my new training, which is Terry Knickerbocker Studio, also Jeb Beach and Associates, and Natalie Moon, dialect coach. But while I was updating this, I actually changed a lot, and I really like the way I've done it. So you can let me know if you like it too. So before I had my film and TV here, I had more written down because prior to doing these shows, I did tons of short films. So I had quite a bit of short films still here. And it was kind of a random selection because I don't know if they care. Maybe I could put absolutely everything and maybe they would like that. I don't know. But to me, I don't know why I chose to have the ones down I did when I've probably done about 40 short films. I went to film school, so we did tons of them in school. I was auditioning for short films through other film schools when I was in high school. So it just could be a very extensive list. That's something I could think about or maybe ask my agent. Do you think they prefer them on or off? Because of course it looks sort of impressive when your list is really massive. But this way it just shows that everything that's here is recent and a big deal to me. Now, one thing I did update on this part here, other than taking a few things off, is just my wording. I had Believers down as lead, I think, and I had these down as supporting. I just wanted the terminology to match the breakdowns I'm getting. So I've switched these to large principal, and I've switched this to guest star because I was the lead of an episode of the show, but I'm not a lead in the show in general. It's one of those shows, just like Accused, where every episode has a completely different cast. So I updated that. I feel pretty professional about that. Another very small update I've done is adding what shortlist my agency is repping me for. So theatrical, film and TV, commercial, and voiceover. And this I really like because I've only ever done one voice acting audition, and I've done a decent amount of voice acting training. So so I just thought it's important to give attention to the fact that I am interested in voice acting work. So I'm glad that I could add that in and everybody could see that. Now, the big change I've done is the way that I've noticed a small thing I want to change actually. Like training is capitalized, but training in these months is not. And casting workshops is not capitalized. I'm going to change that after this. Yes, because before everything was capitalized, and then whatever was in brackets was not. But these ones I just added myself, so I guess I didn't quite realize that. But yeah, a big change I've done is all my training was in one big lump, and then I was trying to like be specific over the fact, oh, this is actually this is actually voice acting. This is theater. Not a lot of my training is theater, except I went to an arts high school for theater. I wonder if that's worth still mentioning. Yes, so I had it all clumped into one thing, and some things I wasn't too specific about what I did there, or sometimes I was too specific. Like I just have every single thing written out. And again, this is up to debate what people prefer. I'm just here to share with you what I've done and why I've done it. But I simplified my list and I only put the training to me that was very valuable. That's a lie. Some of the training that is not here was very valuable too. But this is my recent training, the stuff I want to share really. And that way I feel like they may pay more attention to it. And it also had to do with the way I was wording things. So for instance, when you read Stella Adler's Studio of Acting, so I just did this Terry Knickerbocker workshop. It took place in Vancouver, but he's a New York coach. And he sort of made me think bigger than myself. Like I've been very like, if I was to send a description, a video, like a slate where I'm talking about myself, they tell you to say, and I'm based in Toronto, but I'd be like, hey, I'm Kalina, I'm a Toronto actor. Like I'd talk about myself as if being a Toronto actor is part of my identity, instead of just being an actor. And something I think I've learned from being a part of bigger shows this year, but also from working as a photo double on Black Phone 2, the leads on that show, so Mason Thames is one of the leads, and he was in 3 big films in theaters this year. He was in The New How to Train Your Dragon, he was also in Regretting You, and he was in Black Phone 2. Maddie McGraw, you look at her sister, Violet McGraw, and she's also the lead of the Megan series, or one of the leads. The producer of, one of the producers of Black Phone was also the producer of Megan, and then one of the other producers is the producer of Saturday Night. So it's just like making all these films that to me was like next level, not Toronto stuff. It made it all feel a lot closer to home. And then taking this workshop, I trained in New York, as you can see, like 8 years ago. But taking this workshop again from this man, Terry, who is very New York, which is so wonderful, has kind of brought all that to my attention again and made me realize I want to be seen. I want them to know I've trained in LA and New York. I want to be seen bigger than Toronto. So I stop only booking these Toronto local roles. And if you guys don't know, in these markets, I'm sure everywhere, but Toronto and Vancouver, well, no, I'd say specifically to these Canadian markets, because we're not New York and we're not LA. Maybe Atlanta would work the same way. They'd say Toronto local. So a lot of the big roles often go to people who are American, often, not always, but often. And then they'll have roles specifically for people who are in Toronto because they're shooting these American shows in Toronto. And all these bookings of mine here, Nora is actually a Canadian, a telefilm feature. Telefilm, if you're Canadian watching this, you probably know, but if not, you probably don't. It's our feature films that get money from the government to be made. So telefilm features are a pretty big deal here. I love Canadian features, Canadian filmmaking, so I'm really proud to be part of this project. But these other projects, Twisted Metal, not Murder Mysteries, that's very Canadian, but Cruel Intentions and Accused, these are American shows. So I was hired because they were filmed in Toronto as a Toronto local. But anyways, an example of my training and how I did it wrong was when I went to LA, I went to an acting camp there in 2016, and I was in high school. I saved up all my grocery store money to go to this camp, and I had this written in my jumbled training mess as Young Actors Camp, which is what it was called, LA. But the thing is, we went to Stella Adler's studio and trained there, and it's crazy seeing as Stella Adler's one of the big teachers, one of the major teachers, and on top of that, her studio is so renowned that I did not have Stella Adler's studio on my resume despite having trained there. This is not recent, I trained there 9 years ago. So a lot of this was reframing, and if you're like, oh, well, I can't go to, I don't know where you're based, but I can't go to New York or LA or Toronto, Vancouver, depending on where you are. The really beautiful post-pandemic thing is that a lot of training is accessible online. So Susan Batson's Acting Studios has always been my dream studio, and again, I had the opportunity for just a couple days in grade 12 during Christmas break and first year during Christmas break to train there, and I'd read the book multiple times. I am obsessed with the style of training, and lost my train of thought for a second. Ever since the pandemic, they do intensives in person, but almost everything is offered online. $350, I believe, a month. You can do unlimited classes. I think they've got classes 5 days, if not 4 days a week. They're 4-hour durations, and you can drop in. You don't have to go to every single one. So it's that's New York training. That's a New York studio. You don't have to be in New York to have that on your resume. And I'd say as far as acting classes go, they're pretty reasonable. Especially since she's super renowned and amazing and awesome. And so is her son that runs the studio as well, Carl Ford. So that's how I've reframed this, and this just looks so much more professional. And again, everything was mixed together, and I didn't quite know what to prioritize. I put a lot of the last 2 years into sketch comedy. So my head was sketch comedy first, this, but I want them to realize I do voice acting. And I feel like I was a little all over the place in that way. In this way, depending on what they're looking for, they can just find it. So in regards to improv sketch, I'm a graduate from the Second City Conservatory program here in Toronto. I also trained at Second City in LA, which doesn't exist anymore, where I worked there for 2 years. So I'm where? I'm talking like they're me because I used to say this on the phone all the time. I was a customer service representative. But we opened New York while I worked there, and then Chicago's the original location, and I actually got to go this year for my birthday. I went to Chicago and I watched a show, and I was absurdly sick and should not have been out of the house. It was ridiculous. But anyway, I got to go and watch, and that was really wonderful. But yeah, I've got Toronto and LA. I did my conservatory program in Toronto, so that's why I've got that written first. And I'm also a graduate from Social Capital Theatre. Now, voice acting is something that I more want to get into. I wouldn't say I'm currently have a ton of training, but I did do George Brown's Foundations program through their school, which was 3 different courses, 4 classes a course. So that's first. Kim Herden, which is the big voice casting director here in Toronto. Now I want to give advice in general, but I'm on a casting director wavelength right now. I want all the casting directors to know who I am, and I want to build an individual relationship with them. And that's really what I want to do and what I'm working towards. So doing workshops like this, again, this workshop in particular I took quite a few years ago. This class here, Natalie Moon, I'm in currently, and the George Brown Foundations, I was in 3 years ago. I did that program 3 years ago? 2 years ago? 3 years ago, I believe. But yeah, Kim Herden is a casting director for voice acting. She casts a lot of it, as well as a teacher. And I've really started to listen to all the podcasts I can find of different casting directors, follow them all on Instagram, so that they can maybe watch my work as well, and find out who has classes. Some of them, Gloria Mann offers a lot of workshops. Alona Smythe does classes. I'm interested in trying out her classes. I want to build individual relationships with these people, and I don't want to be scared of them. I don't want to be hello, I'm Kaluna, I'm an actor. I want to ideally be friends with them and be able to yap. And um, when I went to TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, I go every year, but I remember 2 years ago um, hanging out with an agent there. And I've become friends with him. And he's not my agent, but he still messages me on Instagram and comments on my stuff. And it's pretty cool to have a friend who's an agent who's not your agent. And I sort of want to have that relationship with all different people in the industry. Of course, it just creates this weird hierarchy with these sorts of relationships. Um, but yeah, it's just a goal of mine to be a person, to see them, run into them at TIFF and say hello, instead of being like, oh my God, this person is here, I cannot talk to them, which I felt before in the past. So anyway, yeah, I've started to train with Natalie Moon. I've also actually done voice acting with Emily Stranges in Toronto, who's so amazing, who I didn't write down because I've only taken 2 classes, but maybe I should. I have taken classes with her as well, and she's a great teacher. I don't know where you guys are located. So yeah, I'm really excited about training with Natalie Moon now. I'm also 2 classes in, but it's a bit different because I've got a consistent regime I'm in. So pretty much we're doing 4 classes per each dialect. So currently I'm working in just in a classic American dialect. I don't know if you guys listening to me think I have an accent or not. I also, again, don't know where you're from, but people tell me all the time I have an accent. And so most of my auditions are American roles. I need to sound like I can speak with a standard American accent. Again, a small fix. Maybe I'll add standard American. Now, these are the casting workshops I've done. If you guys are looking for casting workshops and you are Canadian, Jeb Beach does a lot of them for Toronto coaches and casting directors and Vancouver casting directors. I've only done the Toronto casting directors because I currently work almost exclusively in Toronto. Not entirely. I sometimes get seen by Vancouver casting directors, but not often. And, everything costs money, so I commit to the people I'm going in for. This is something that one day probably won't be on my resume because I want these people to just know who I am and not need to read, oh, I guess you did a workshop with me. They just know who I am. They've seen me many times. They know I've done workshops, but they also know me from bookings things. And I feel like one day this part won't be so necessary. Now, a big change in this I've done as well is my theater, stage and theater before, was right under film and TV, and my commercials too was right under theater. And I think working with Terry Knickerbocker and hearing him talk so much about plays and theater because he resides in New York, it just made me have a moment thinking, my theater is not that impressive. I didn't go to theater school. I went to high school for theater, actually, but I actually just took out my high school stuff, but I wasn't in any big named plays. And yeah, honestly, I find this pretty impressive. I've written solo shows and I've performed them, and I've also performed 8 weeks of shows at the Second City as well. This is all either poetry based solo shows that I wrote, or the Second City is comedy. These 2 things, Lost But Found and Today's Your Day, I actually auditioned for and booked, and that was kind of shocking. I don't go out for theater a lot, but I did actually book these, away from me writing them and putting them together. But these are the ones that I still found quite impressive, but I don't have a bunch of Chekhov and these classic plays on this list, which is okay. But after training with him, and I just realized that I think my training is more impressive than my stage and theater work. And so I put that down here, and I took out the commercials because here in Canada, most of our commercials are non-union. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And I'm not going out for many commercials, so I was just like, I don't think I need my commercials on this. My languages, again, I put more time into dialects and my special skills. So that's that. I know I just also spoke a little bit about my experience too, and this was a little more than just the resume, but Nonetheless, this is why I put things the way I did, and I'm really happy with the way I've put things. Another really beautiful thing this has done for me, we all function differently, but I'm very methodical. And I went to school for film production. And when I think of my growth in creativity, like in the arts, and I think of acting, I tend to go, okay, I want to work on my cinematography. Well, like my photography led to my interest in cinematography and like writing. And I'm thinking about it all in this scope, like a filmmaker, because I am a filmmaker. But setting this up, and again, maybe just my recent courses I've taken too, has made me think directly as an actor what there is to improve. And I had an improv show recently, and I realized it was the first time on stage where I realized I wasn't. This is gonna sound not like what I mean. I was gonna say it, the first time I wasn't trying to be someone. You're always trying to be someone in improv, but I wasn't like, I'm going on stage. Okay, time to, like, there's a part in getting big. This is something that you should be doing. I think the best way to word this is I stopped being a tryhard, and I think it was my best performance ever. So improv is something I want to revisit because I've got a feeling I'm in a new place with it, and I've got more things to come out. Voice acting and dialects, I'm in a good place with it right now, and I can feel the growth. I'm also really inspired to grow in theater, and again, like dialects, I said that, but I want to continue to grow in that way. So I'm really enjoying that my interests are here, and also like still the filmmaking ones exist, but I like that I can directly see in acting what I want to work on and what's missing, and even in regards to what's missing on my reel, but not looking at it like what's missing in my reel, but more like what kind of roles have I not tried, what do I love to watch, what do I see myself in that I'm not going out for enough. I've been thinking like that for a while, but nonetheless I wanted to share that. Yes, yes. I'm thinking I enjoy the way I like make goals and stuff, so I may want to share that with you guys in a different video. But yeah, this is pretty straightforward. It's your size card. The most important thing is that it's there, you know? In regards to photos, this is a little bit extra because it costs money on Actors Access to share more than 2 photos. And again, I'm just in this mindset right now where I've put a lot of time into acting and I just need to invest in myself. And this year was the first year, last year a bit too, but I got a lot out of it, you know? A lot of it was working as a stand-in and a photo double as well as an actor. But I made money through it, so it made it easier to invest in myself more. To be honest, I can't tell you if it really matters that I've got so many photos here instead of 2. I think it matters a bit to have more than 2 because that tends to be commercial. And then, theatrical. In this you can see like this one here, I really love this one. It's got this kind of sensual energy, but it also has the sweetness to it, right? And I really love this one as well. I love Megan Park, and this makes me feel like I can get cast in a Megan Park movie. Even though I went out for her show a lot this summer, Sterling Point, I didn't book it. But nonetheless, like getting in the room is half the battle. And this little tomboy energy, it also feels very honest to me. You can't really tell from what I'm wearing now, but I just finished an audition and then I put the shirt on top because I was like, oh, this feels too much to me for this talk we're having. But this just speaks to me a lot. Now, these ones here, I got them very recently, and again, if I didn't have the year I had, I don't, like, I had, like, very little money for a couple years, and I was going a couple years without getting headshots, or getting headshots through friends who were photographers, instead of when I was younger than that, getting a headshot every year. So getting 2 in a year is kind of absurd. But again, it's just this idea of investing in myself and really just doing anything I can, so there can't be any version of me that's like thinks I didn't do enough. You know, I'm trying to make that never something on my mind. These headshots I got very recently. I just, to be honest, if the headshot photographer is watching this, I mean, you guys did such a beautiful job. They're really lovely photos. I think my thing is I didn't say anything about not curling my hair. I said fine if I let the makeup and hairstylist do whatever they wanted. But in retrospect, I looked too done up, and I never do my hair like that. I just felt like I didn't look or feel like me. And I want to go out for roles. They don't have to feel like me, but I'd like to have the option to go out for myself. And I don't think that these were really giving me that very much. But these feel a lot more, genuine to my energy. And these ones I got slate shots, and to be honest, this slate shot experience, as simple as a slate shot is, a slate shot is every time you have an audition, you have to say, hello, my name is Kalina Alessandra Fisher, I'm 5'4" and I'm based in Toronto. You'd say your version of that, right? A slate shot is a version to do that with your headshot that can give the energy of the shot. And this was the beginning of me getting into characters, and there's something about having a very genuine and honest headshot, but there's also something about character acting and putting on a character and showing that through something as simple as a headshot. And I really enjoyed that. So something like this gives me, I had a very small role on Cruel Intentions last year. This gives me Cruel Intentions energy. So the slate shot.
Kalina Alessandra Fisher, 5'4", based in Toronto.
Is really giving off that energy. I just added these headshots today. They don't have slate shots yet, but they will. I posted my slate shots on Instagram, and my agent just recently started a podcast, and his first one was with a casting director, Kelly Boaz. She's a casting assistant to Robin Cook, if you know the Toronto names. And somebody actually asked, are slate shots important? And that person follows me on Instagram. I kind of wondered if she had asked that as a result of me sharing them. And Kelly Boaz says, I've never watched a slate shot in my life. So just because I added these, I don't think it's necessary, but that being said, I'm still going to make them here because I really loved making these. I feel like they helped me grow as an actor. Just a very simple way of showing character. And I want to do everything I can. And just because one casting director never looks doesn't mean no one looks. But in a way, it's for me as well. And I'm going to do that. Now, in regards to media, you can see I've got a lot of media here. And I do think this is important. Again, it costs money, and this is really new to me to have so many. My agent really pushed me to do this, but I'm going to continue to add to it because people can see this on your profile. And I've also added underneath what each piece has so they can see what I offer. And I've got all my different reels up here from different roles I've booked, but also just scenes that I've done, like from Bottoms.
Mr. G. G-Man, G-Dog.
And I love to do films. Indie features are my favorite. This is the kind of actor I want to be. I want to be predominantly a feature film actor, or there's some really good cinematic television these days too. But I like to do films where I really have a big respect for the actors, the writer, and the director, as along with everybody who works on the film, of course. But Bottoms is a good example of that. And I Like Movies is a really good example of that.
So anyway, NYU, it's $90,000 US. And I
don't mind fucking me like this.
Why are you acting like you don't know what I'm talking about? When I'm out there...
And my agent really pushed so we don't spend too much money. That's a funny place for me to cut this. 30-second clips. I did that. Now I do it hit or miss, but they're trying to get a vibe. They're not necessarily watching the whole thing. Save some money. You don't need to make everything like this actual clip. I'm gonna pause that a little bit. Different place is about 3 minutes. So anyway, that's how I've set everything up on my Actors Access. I also have two. I've got an animation voice reel and commercial voice reel. I've just added these. I was sort of insecure about them. The commercial voice reel I think is pretty decent. You guys can let me know what you think.
Kalina Alessandra Fisher. You can customize your entree and be your own culinary master. So what?
Yeah. And then I've got an animation one too. I don't go out for voice right now. I haven't been putting everything into voice. Film acting is where it's at for me. But nonetheless, I would love to audition for it and learn more about that area of acting because it's just a lot of the work and I want to know everything there is to know, really. So anyway, I added these here because I thought it would help me get some opportunities in that, and I did make them. With time, I will update them. But this is everything I have up, and that's pretty much where my Actors Access is at. If you guys watch this and you're like, that's cool, that's awesome, girl, keep it up, then let me know. If you're watching this, you're like, that's so unnecessary, or you didn't add that, you can tell me too. But please be constructive, because I'm just a girl and I'm learning. And I shouldn't say I'm just a girl. I don't like that expression anymore. Sorry. I'm just a human is what I mean. Like, and I'm learning, and I want to learn with you, really. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you do, I think I'll make another one with casting workbook too, and maybe with my Notion, because I love doing this shit. This was so much fun to put together, and you know, this is our portfolio. So that's why I think it's worth putting everything into, because it's what people see when they see you, and it shows how seriously you take everything, how much different kinds of work you've done, and just I feel like your meticulousness and your it reads through, right? Like, I think my issue maybe 5 or 6 years ago was this belief that I put a lot of time into this stuff, but maybe people weren't actually watching. Even doing an audition, I was like, didn't feel like the casting directors actually knew me, but they should know me because they watched it, you know? So why should I expect that they don't remember me, you know? So I've changed that mindset, and now this is one of many important factors. It's not the only one, but it is important, and I'm really grateful I put this time into it. I think it looks bomb AF, personally. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a beautiful day. Bye for now.